Now, having talked about this, visualizing, knowing which category, and then is it applicable or not, there's a fourth type or fourth procedure, which is if I did not still reach a verdict, what to do after applying all this process. I could not reach a verdict. What to do? The safest and the most acceptable thing among scholars is to abstain. Just
say Allahu A'lam.
Allahu A'lam. I do not have the knowledge. Maybe someone else would come later on and give this, but you have to be aware not to go into deep waters without being able to swim.
So we find often, though, that there are some scholars that unfortunately, or people who claim to be scholars, that actually do this. They go in over their head and they end up misguiding the people as a result of it. So what would you say, Shaykhna, are some of the common mistakes that some scholars make when addressing these issues?
That's a good question. People by nature make mistakes. And that is why we do not exclude scholars from this human nature thing. However, it is very important to know that these nawazil, these incidents or new contemporary issues should not be addressed by one single scholar. It should be collective. And this is why the Fiqh Council of so many organizations and countries, they collaborate, they gather once or twice a year to discuss these important issues that maybe if one scholar gave his fatwa without consulting them, he would regret this later on. So the most important thing to avoid is to give a fatwa without having a reference of a collective decision-making body, which is usually composed of scholars who are excellent in their knowledge, and also they are excellent in their righteousness. Among the mistakes that a lot of or some of the scholars may fall into is dissecting an incident that they're asked about. So whenever they try to visualize an incident, they come to it and say, okay, this incident is divided into 4 contracts, for example. I'll give you an example. There is what is called as an Islamic transaction in banks, where you go, you actually want a loan. Conventional banks tell you, we will take 7%. Here's 100,000, you pay us 7% a year. Islamic banks, so-called Islamic banks, would say, well, we don't lend you by interest, but what we can do is, you give us power of attorney to buy something on your behalf. You give us a promise or a signed contract that you're going to buy it of us once we buy it for you. And then you authorize us to sell it to someone else, and then you pay it to us in installments.
So basically they're looking for like a loophole in the system, like trying to get around it, sort of like what the children of Israel did by putting their nets ahead of time, because they weren't allowed to work on the Saturday, so they would put their things ahead of time and then collect it after Saturday.
It's exactly the same ruling. They are making a trick. The funny thing is that when a scholar comes and looks at this transaction, he dissects it, he divides it. So he says, power of attorney is permissible in Islam. Giving a promise that you will do something is permissible in Islam. Giving them the power of attorney to buy or to sell is permissible in Islam. Buying items in installments is permissible in Islam. So if you look at it individually, it's all permissible. But when you come to the actual transaction, it is something of a trick to make usury or to make riba halal.
So they forgot about إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ, that every action is by their intention.
Yes, and this is extremely important in transactions, that the intention is meant, it's meant, and it is intended. So it has to be looked at when making a transaction.
Barakallahu feekum ya Shaykh, Jazakallah khairan. We'd love to continue, but unfortunately we're just out of time. Join us again next week, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Lord, I am just a simple man trying hard to